So as we've seen already, we have two cars that have already semi-crashed. We've had Jack crashing into the pit lane wall, and we've also had Kian spinning on his flying lap, but he's now going back for another one.
So welcome to Austria, and you join us with 5 minutes left of quali, and Chaz is on a hot lap. But no, he's coming into the pits, even though he went purple in the middle sector. He's aborted that lap. The tyres had run their course. They could well be his race set. And currently, Thunderdog is in P1, and Chaz is right behind in P2, both on the softs. But the surprise is, so far, that the Caleb has decided to qualify on medium tyres. Is it just a sighter to get his eye in, or is he going to try and start the race on mediums and go for a completely different strategy? He's sitting there in P3. Surely he'll come out again on softs to try and better that. And in P4, we have Jack on board with him at the moment. He's not going any quicker. So if Caleb doesn't come out again, well, that's going to really be an interesting start. He's on the mediums. Everyone else is on the softs. He's obviously going to look for a different strategy. If he is going to come out on the softs to do a run in there, he needs to get out of the pits pretty quickly. Okay, it's a short lap here, but he's only got a minute or so to strap on those red marked soft tyres. Probably worth about a second a lap round here, and he's about a second off pole. So what's he going to do? Let's have a quick word with Karoom down in the pits. Yes, hello, here we are in the pits, and there's no sign of activity around the Caleb 137 car. As you say, he's a second off pole and he's on the mediums. Could this be him going for a different strategy? He's going to be on the slower tyre at the start, but if he can stay with the others going into the first stint, well, he'll go longer and maybe get away with one stop. I don't know if it's possible. We've not looked at this option, but will he still come out? There's no movement around the car. It looks like he might not be coming out. Back to you. Yes, thank you for that. And we're going to go back on board with Chaz, because he's on an out lap now, just with 2 minutes to go. This will be his final go, and this will, I think, is his best qualifying of the season so far. He's sitting in P2 and he's not far off pole. So this is his one last shot to try and get his first pole of the season, I believe. Now, can he do it? So he's got 2 corners to go. He's just preparing the tyres. He comes to the final corner to start his final flying lap. 2 minutes to go. This is his final set of softs. So let's ride on board. DRS wide open as he approaches turn 1. Spot his braking point on the left. Could have taken a little bit more curb on the inside there, but now DRS all the way up the hill. Approaching 200 miles an hour. And to the very slow right-hander, which is turn 3. Manages to nail the apex there. A little bit of a wobble on exit there as the power goes down and the back end wants to step out. Another DRS zone running down to turn 4, but he's just a tenth off at the moment. He can still, off his best, he can still catch that up. Doesn't go too wide on turn 4. Looks clean through there. Round 5, which isn't really there. Now 6 and 7, these two tricky left-handers that just seem to go on and on. A lot of time can be won or lost around here, and he's going around there, but he's another tenth or 2 down, so he's not going to improve on this lap. So it looks like Thunderdog is going to take the pole. Let's just see him finish the lap. 1 corner to go, and 5 or 6 tenths down now on his best, but still a good qualifying performance from Chaz. As we go on board with Jack, who's also looking to start his final flying lap. And it looks now that it's pretty much confirmed, because there's not enough time, that the Caleb will be starting on those medium yellow tyres, because he's still in the pits and there's less than a minute to go. Now, Jack is only a couple of tenths behind him. So this is Jack's final flying effort. Can he get 3rd position on the grid and relegate the Caleb down to 4th? Let's see how it goes. He's matching his previous lap time at the moment, so it's still there. Another DRS zone. So he approaches turn 4. Spots his braking zone. Pretty close to the apex there. That looked nice and neat and tidy. He's slightly up. It's going to be very close here. Now through 6 and 7. Round 7, again, looked pretty tidy. In fact, he had plenty of room. He could have gone a little bit more speed around there, but he's 2 tenths up. If he can just maintain this, he's going to steal third place off the Caleb. Can he get the final 2 corners right? Braking hard for the final corner. Foot down to the end. DRS wide open. And he's got P2! P2 for Jackaroo! What a lap! What a lap! Front row for Jackaroo. Pushes Chaz back down to third. The Caleb will start on fourth on the harder tyre though. So we'll see how that strategy pans out. Thunderdog on pole. Jackaroo leaves it late. Still second position after the checkered flag had dropped. What a final lap from him. P2 front row. Chaz third. The Caleb fourth. Join us for the race in a few minutes. So I thought I'd leave the start for you to see on your own, and we can see now that the lead has been taken by Thunderdog. Jack chasing well, Chaz in P3, and the Caleb down in P6 at a difficult start on those mediums. So maybe that wasn't a good choice, but let's see if he can fight his way back through. So Thunderdog leads. Here he is with the clear track ahead of him, approaching the final corner at the end of the first lap. Jackaroo right behind. He's had a good first lap as well, and Chaz right behind him. Here he is, he's having a look into turn one. Jack closes the door on the inside, but he'll have DRS going up the straight towards turn 3. Can Chaz get past him? Of course, no DRS for the first couple of laps, so he'll have to just try and maintain this distance behind. And the run down to turn 4 now. And Caleb's made it up to P5 after a difficult start. It could still come to him on those medium yellow wall tyres. Thunderdog not particularly getting away. He's not out of DRS zone yet, and Jack isn't out of DRS zone of Chaz. So at the end of this lap, the DRS will be available to use if they're all within the zone. At the moment they are. So riding on board with Chaz, keeping close enough to Jackaroo at the moment, who in turn is pretty close to the lead. Good final couple of corners there from Chaz. Definitely in the DRS zone. And Thunderdog has moved quite well clear on that lap. So difficult lap for Jack perhaps. DRS wide open by Chaz. Is he going to have a look into turn 3? Going down the inside. Jack covers and goes straight on. And they've both gone wide. Jack's off and Chaz is off. Chaz is back on into P2. Jack's still going in P3. And here's Caleb into he's P5 still, so he's still looking to get back into that. So let's ride back on board now with Chaz. He's got P2. He's a couple of seconds ahead of Jack and a couple of seconds behind Thunderdog. He's gone purple first sector. That was with the aid of the DRS before they both managed to go off at turn 3. So he finishes the lap, another fastest lap from Thunderdog. Chaz goes through 2.9 seconds, so 3 seconds behind basically. And Jackaroo in P3 just crossing the line now, a further 2.5 seconds back. So let's have a look at the Caleb. He's right behind Forrest there in P5. He's got DRS, so will he be able to have a look into turn 3? And will he be able to keep it on the track, which is what Chaz and Jackaroo didn't manage to do last time. Down the inside he goes and manages to get it stopped. Through he goes into P4. That's a cleaner one by the Caleb on the medium tyres. It'll be interesting to see now he's got a clear track ahead of him, how his pace will relate to the others on the slower tyre. If he can match their pace, then he's going to be sitting in a good position. But if he continues to fall further back, then maybe this medium tyre at the start wasn't the right option. So let's see what happens in the next couple of laps. The gap at the moment to Jack, 3.3 seconds. Chaz, further couple of seconds up the road. On board with Jack. Still 2.6 or so behind. Now, the interesting next thing will be how long are these tyres going to last. So on board with Kian at the front. Only lap 5 at the moment. It's a pretty short lap. So we'll have to see how that pans out. So let's look at the gap. Thunderdog at the moment back to the Caleb is 9.4 seconds. So 9.4 seconds separating the top 4. So keep an eye on that gap to see how Caleb on the mediums is going to do compared to these soft tyre runners. The softer red marked tyres are obviously going to be slightly quicker, certainly for the first few laps, possibly a second a lap, but they will go off quicker. So let's see how that pans out. Green first sector for Kian, Thunderdog. Green second sector from Thunderdog. So personal best lap this so far. A little bit wide there at the penultimate corner, taking lots of curb at the last corner, and slinks onto the straight. Now has a 4.4 second lead over Chaz. Another new fastest lap. And the gap to the Caleb is 10.1, so it is growing. That's almost, it's pretty much the second a lap now, 10.3. So that's pretty much the difference between the tyres. It's thought to be around about that 1 second per lap. And we're pretty much back to where we picked up on board a lap ago. Now 10.6, so it's about 1.2 seconds he's gained on the Caleb that lap. So will he continue to be able to pull away at that pace? Or will the tyres drop off soon, and will Caleb start closing that gap? We'll have to wait and see what happens. Still a couple of second gap between Chaz and Jackaroo. So the race is pretty set for a little while, so just go through some of the different onboards. And Jackaroo, in fact, not too far behind Chaz, just a second and a half behind. So he's on a pretty good run at the moment. And as soon as we get some tyre news of how much tyre life people have left. And we'll see what happens. There's a yellow flag, and that's the virtual safety car. So somebody's gone off somewhere. Now, the last time we had a virtual safety car, let's go on board with him now. The Caleb was speeding under a virtual safety car. The race was in his pocket, and he sped and got a drive-through penalty. So let's see if any of them make the same mistake this time. This should neutralise the race. The computer will give them a delta time to stick to. They have to be positive of that delta time, so slower. It'll go green on their top right hand corner. It has to be a positive. If it goes negative, it means that they're going too fast and they have to slow down, and they'll get a drive through. So they have to keep it positive. In fact, they're racing again now. The VSC is back in, so everybody has to slow down to the same rate, and then as soon as it goes in, they can all go flat out again. So it should just neutralise things, and everybody shouldn't be affected compared to everybody else. And we're riding on board with the Caleb, and we can see in a couple of the corners now, Jackaroo not too far ahead. So it looks like the Caleb has gained on Jack through that safety car period, and Jack's lost a second or two to Chaz. Maybe he was a bit slow, Jackaroo, on the uptake back to green. Could have been the reason. Certainly Caleb has gained. And let's have a look at the gap to Kian. Still 10.6, 10.7, so that's pretty stable. So that could be stable because of the safety car, or Caleb is managing to match the lap times of Thunderdog. Let's just see by the end of this lap whether it continues to grow and go out to 11 and 12 seconds. But at the moment, 10.8. So still all to play for, still anybody's race. It's Thunderdog building up a good 6-second lead now over Chaz. So a lot will depend now on whether this strategy of the Caleb on the mediums is going to pay dividends or not. Let's see how that works out. Very wide in the final corner, Thunderdog there. As he crosses the line, he's 11.3 up, so he's got another 6 or 7 tenths out of the Caleb on that lap, so he's still pulling away. So looks at the moment like this strategy of mediums for the Caleb isn't working, but he will be able to go longer, so anything could happen. They could get a full safety car, or all sorts could happen. He's going to go longer, so let's see how it pans out later on in the race. Just on board with him at the moment. And that gap to Jackaroo's gone out to about 2 seconds, so he's not making any impression on him. 35% wear on the front left on the mediums, so interesting to see what the soft runners are at the moment, because they'll have much more wear than that by now, you would have thought. On board with Chaz, nearly 7 seconds off Thunderdog now. Not seen the soft tyre wear rates yet, so look out for those. Wide at the penultimate corner there, but Stewart's not looking at track limits in this particular race. As we're back on board with Jack. Just a second and a half back to Caleb now, so Caleb keeping the pressure on. He'll be hoping to get into DRS range soon. And Jack only, well, less than 3 seconds off Chaz, so close battle for second, third and fourth. On board with Caleb. Into turn 4. Spotting the apex very nicely there. Like good use of all the curb on the outside. Just 1.2 to Jack, so he's certainly keeping the pressure on, getting closer and closer bit by bit. 1.1 now, personal best middle sector for the Caleb. So could we be seeing now the tyre crossover point? Possibly those red wall tyres are starting to drop off a little bit now, and the yellow ones still holding on and maintaining the pace that they had. See the gap to the front. That's the right button. So gap to Caleb 11.8. So that's stabilised for the last lap and a half. So could well be getting to the point where the two tyre compounds are pretty much the same, giving the same lap time at the moment. So it must be soon that those red ones will be needing a pit stop. We're on lap 11 already of 36, so almost 1/3 distance. Back on board with the Caleb and just 1.05 off. He's very close to DRS range now, so he'll be hoping to get into that soon. And that will help him stay even closer. Chaz only another 3 seconds up the road. 0.8 now, so he's within DRS range. So will he get it down the main straight? Final corner. Takes a lot of curve there. That's going to unsettle the car. Manages to keep it in line, and he has got DRS. 42% wear front left for the Caleb. And will he get DRS up the hill here? I don't think he is. He's just gone outside DRS, so he must have made a mistake through turn 1. So he's dropped back a little bit more again, so see how that pans out. Back on board with Jack, who's just ahead. Neat and tidy through 4. Scrolling through some menus on his steering wheel. Pit window, lap 14 to 16 is the information he's been given. So another couple of laps and he'll be in. Back on board of Chaz, and here we go, 63% wear front left, so performance drop off definitely now with 63% front left wear, but still holding on to second place, 9 seconds behind Thunderdog, so we'll be probably not too far away from a pit stop for the soft runners. Caleb just can't seem to keep that gap close enough to Jack. Our leader, Thunderdog, increasing the gap all the time, 10 seconds. He's looking pretty well set to take another victory this weekend. Long way to go yet. Just past 1/3 distance. So for these soft runners, will it be a 2-stop or will it be a 1-stop? If we come in at lap 14, that still would leave them 22 laps to go. 71% wear there with Thunderdog front left, but we saw there. So it will only be a matter of another lap or 2. If you get to lap 16, then that'll be 20 laps to go. So I think it's still only going to be a 1-stop for those starting on softs. So Caleb's plan on starting on mediums, hoping that the others would have to go 2-stop, may not actually work. I suppose the only benefit will be he'll be able to change tyres later, so he will be on fresher tyres after the Caleb makes his pit stop. So we'll have to see how that pans out. So on board now again with the Caleb. He's right up behind GBRO, within DRS, down to turn 4. Through to turn 4, he's right behind. And Jack got oversteer on exit, and he's gone. He's spun off. Jack has spun off on the exit of 4. Here he is, getting it, pointing in the right direction. He's flat spotted his front left quite badly, you can see. So that's going to feel awful to drive. It's cleaned up 100% wear on front left, so he'll have to box at the end of this lap. He'll have no grip, especially going round the right-handers. Let's see if he can nurse it round to the pits and get into the pits. And Caleb is up to P3, a couple of seconds off Chaz, and Jack having a great race. He'll be very disappointed with that. And that front left looks like a 50p piece for those of our Australian friends. If you don't know what a 50p piece looks like, it looks like a 50 cent. Lots of jagged edges. So he'll be changing tyres. Let's see what he goes. So will he go hard? Will he go medium? Probably hard for this amount of time still to go. And it is the white wall tyres, so it will be hard. It's back on board with Caleb in P3, 4 seconds back, and the Thunderdog leads by 10 seconds over Chaz and 12.4 over the Caleb. So still managing to just gradually eke that gap out to the Caleb, 12 seconds. Looks like he's coming in this lap though. Yep, the leader is in. Will he go hards? Or mediums? 21 laps still to go. See what he puts on. Will Chaz stay out or will he come in as well? Still on board with Thunderdog. Chaz is staying out. And it is the white-walled hard tyres for Thunderdog as well. Back on board with the Caleb, and he's right behind Chaz in DRS. Now Chaz will be coming in, the tyres are starting to go off. Will Caleb risk a collision, or will he sit behind him in the hope that Chaz will box? He's going to have DRS down to turn 4, and he's right behind him, so he may just take the opportunity. He should have much better grip as well anyway. And through he goes under DRS, almost before the braking zone. And that looks simple enough. Although Chaz trying to get him back on the undercut, on the cutback even, but not being able to. So Caleb is in the lead, of course, because Thunderdog has pitted. But Caleb will still have to pit, but Caleb is now net second place, being ahead of both Jack and Chaz on the road. And Jackaroo's had a 5-second penalty. I don't know what that's for. I didn't see what happened there, but he's picked up a 5-second penalty. Don't know why. Perhaps Karoon in the pits, you can look out for that one. Yes, I will go down and ask them why he's got a 5-second penalty. He won't be very happy. I'll listen for the radio and see what's going on for you. Back to you. Yes, please do that for us, Karoon. Try and find out what's going on. And your keep for the weekend. Thank you very much. So back on board with Caleb. Now his tyre wear 62%, I think that is front left. So he's still got a few more laps to go before he'll have to stop. And we're almost at half distance. And what's the gap back to Thunderdog? Can't quite read that very easily. 5.4 seconds. And of course Thunderdog has already stopped and Caleb has not. But the longer Caleb can keep going, the fresher his tyres will be. More fresher in relation to Thunderdog's tyres at the end of the race. But of course Caleb will also have to go onto the hards because you have to use 2 different sets, 2 different compounds during the race. So you start on the mediums, so you can't put more mediums on. I suppose if he goes very long, he could put some softs on, but I don't know if he's got any softs available. So we'll just have to see what happens with that. Gap down to 4.6, so Thunderdog's still catching. Thunderdog just seems to have the pace this weekend, and they were saying in practice that he seems to be quicker than everybody else. So he just seems to be well hooked up around this circuit. He's found a good setup and just seems to have the pace on whatever compound of tyre that he happens to be on. So we'll see how that pans out. On board with Jack. That's that 5-second penalty, of course, and he's 16 seconds behind Chaz. Purple first sector for Jackaroo, so it's a nice first sector for him. So really we should be keeping an eye now as we... There's a smashing sound in the commentary box there. Really we should be keeping an eye on the gap between the Caleb and Chaz. So Chaz, having already made his pit stop. No, of course he hasn't made his... Yes, he has made his pit stop, and he's on the yellow tyres. So he's gone for mediums. Whereas the other 2 went for hards. He went a little bit longer on that opening stint and went straight to the mediums. So if that's a one-stop soft medium, surely the Caleb could go medium soft. Now that's going to make it interesting at the end if he's able to do that, if he has any softs available to him. We're just after half distance now. It all depends on how much further the Caleb can go. Or has Chaz perhaps made an error going to the mediums. Can he get those to the end? We'll have to see what happens. Back on board with Caleb, doing personal best lap. First 2 sectors so far anyway. So his tyres still seem to be perfectly okay. Fuel load's gradually coming down. Only 1.6 ahead of Thunderdog now, so really being... Yeah, pit stop window open to go for a 1-stop onto softs for Caleb. So he will be on softs, if he has any. And the Thunderdog on hards, but of course the gap is going to be pretty much a pit stop, so it's going to be about 20 seconds. So he's going to need about 1.5 seconds a lap, and I'm just not sure, even with that tyre differential, whether he's going to be able to claw back that sort of gap. So it's looking good for Thunderdog at the moment. But you never know what can happen. As we ride on board with Thunderdogs, lapping some back markers. There's Caleb just up ahead. Now, we're interesting to see how he approaches this as well. And that the Caleb dives into the pits. So I was going to see whether we were going to have a bit of a battle or whether Thunderdog was going to wait. But Caleb jumps into the pits anyway. And what will he do? Will he go to the softs? Yes, it looks like red tyres, so he's onto the softs. Hopefully he can get to the end of those. Now, how quickly will he be able to claw that time back? And will he come out ahead of Chaz? On board with Chaz. And there's Caleb and they're side by side. Caleb is just ahead by 2 car lengths. He's on the softer tyres, but it might take a couple of corners to get them up to temperature. So if Chaz is going to get past, he's going to need to do it in the next couple of corners. And he's right under the rear wing of the Caleb. He'll have DRS going down into turn 4. Trying to get the power down. DRS wide open. But the Caleb got very good traction on those new soft tyres. And he's safe into turn 4. Now, Chaz desperately needs to keep as close as he can so he can have a go on the next lap into turn 3 or 4. Caleb will be looking to eke that gap out as much as possible in these couple of laps to get out of that DRS zone. Crucial lap this is, and that was a crucial exit from turn 3 that gave him wonderful traction to get out of the DRS zone for into turn 4. And Chaz will be very frustrated about that. He'd have seen Caleb come out of the pits thinking, oh, this is a great opportunity to get back P2, and it just disappeared from him. And it looks, he's got DRS still, but it's about a second. He must have been within a second at the detection point. As they go up the hill now, he's now out of DRS zone, and it looks like Caleb's got the job done on that, and he's on the softer tyres. So he should be able to pull away now and think about whether he can mount a serious attack to Thunderdog. So Chaz will keep plugging away, and he's got a good lead over the GBRO, so it looks like his podium is pretty safe at this stage. Let's go back on board with the Caleb so you can see the gap. 16 seconds for Thunderdog. Now he's how many laps to go? 14 laps to go, 16 seconds, so he needs up more than a second a lap. So let's see how that pans out in the next couple of laps on these new soft tyres. See if he's able to make any impression. A bit wide at the final corner. And a new fastest lap there from the Caleb, 106.8. So purple final sector, personal best sector 1 and 2. So the message has been sent. I am faster than you. That's over a second a lap on that lap. Well, this could be a Grand Slam finish. It was looking like Thunderdog had this pretty much under control. But that first flying lap from Caleb after the tyres were warmed up, he's taken a huge chunk out of Thunderdog, who might well be quaking in his boots now. Purple first sector from Caleb on the next lap as well. So this race has come alive in the final sector. Final part of the race. There's 13 laps to go. And the gap is down to 14.2 seconds. Another new fastest lap from the Caleb. Down to 13.2 second gap now. 12 laps to go. Is it enough? 12.9, 12 laps. Still think Thunderdog's probably just about got enough because the tyre advantage that the Caleb's got, certainly these new soft tyres, certainly for the first 5 or 6 laps will provide that big advantage. But they will go off quicker. So this rate of increase in lap time will gradually diminish the more we go into this race, but Thunderdog's tyres will also be going off. So we'll have to see what happens. It's down to 11.6 seconds now, halfway around the next lap. So 24 laps completed, 12 laps to go, 11.3 seconds. So it's a second a lap, and he'll be there with a lap to go. That's what he needs. Second a lap. All to play for. And Jack's spun off. He's back onto the track again now. And he's still in P4 though. I think that was around turn 6 and 7 he was off, but back on. All seems well. And he carries on his way. Let's have a look at how Chaz is getting on. Still going pretty well. Gradually falling back from the Caleb. And, on those medium tyres, he should be able to get those to the end. And he's got a huge lead over P4. In fact, because of that off from Jack, that's almost given Chaz the opportunity for a free pit stop should he want it, put on the soft tyres and go for fastest lap, whether he'll want to do that or not. Risk that, or whether to just bring it home in P3 for another podium, another piece of silverware, another bottle of champagne. That's sorted. But up the front, it's 10.7 seconds now with 11 laps to go. So still a second a lap needed. And still a second a lap is what he's gaining by. So it's going to go down to the wire. Caleb really trying to make this almost reverse strategy work of starting on the mediums and then going to the softs for the second stint, whereas everyone else started on the softs and has changed to hard tyres in the case of Jack and Thunderdog, but mediums in the case of Chaz. I just think that he's not quite catching quickly enough now, Caleb, and it looks like Thunderdog will probably have it covered, even though it is under 10 seconds now. 10 laps to go. It's only just a second a lap, and in fact it is at 10 seconds now. Pretty much starting to stabilise. Run on board with the leader for a change. It's a pretty lonely race out the front there. He's handled it very well. Looks like he's on his way to another victory and to extend his championship lead 9.5 seconds ahead. And there will be 9 laps to go at the end of this lap. So for the first time in a while, Caleb will need more than a second a lap. 9 laps to go, 9.2 advantage. Caleb approaching some back markers. He probably knows it's pretty much up now, unless Thunderdog makes some sort of mistake or we get a safety car. He's not going to catch him. We'll still push on, just in case, getting DRS off the back markers there. That's all we're going to help. So 7 laps to go. 8.7 the gap. It's DRS at the hill as well. All helps. Neat and tidy around turn 3. And Chaz is boxing, so it looks like he's thought about that option of going for fastest lap. Just 5 laps to go. He had a huge lead over 4th place Jackaroo, so it's a free pit stop. He's not going to catch the Caleb in P2, so he bolts on the red tyres. He'll have 3 or 4 laps once he's got these up to temperature to try and beat Caleb's fastest lap and steal the extra championship points that goes with it. Here's Jackaroo, so the gap now to Chaz is only 13 seconds, but he's on the hard tyre and Chaz is put on those new softs, so that's only going to grow as Chaz spins off, makes a mistake or something. Here's our leader coming up the hill. 4.5 laps to go, and he's 10 seconds clear of the Caleb, so he's got this coming, and he's spun, the leader spun, then he's hit, then he's used the reset, so he won't have lost very much time there at all, but he completely against the barrier, facing the wrong way, uses the reset, and that's not cost him very much time at all. He's really got away with that. The Caleb only is 6.5 seconds behind now. There's only 4.5 laps to go, so Thunderdog gets away with one big time there. Will he make another mistake? Are the tyres starting to go? Has he got any damage? So we're right on board now. What's going to do? Is he coming in? Is he staying out? He's staying out. Obviously, if he did pit, he would lose the race. He wouldn't be able to claw back the time. 5.6 seconds is the gap. So once again, late drama. Once you think the race is all set, something happens. And can Caleb take any advantage of it? Back on board with Kian. Tyres seem fine. Looks like he's got away with it, and the car seems okay. Gap's down to 4.9 though. 3.5 laps to go. And how's Chaz getting on with his fastest lap attempt? Purple sector 1, green sector 2. He finishes the lap, and yes, fastest lap. He's taken that off the Caleb as well. So fastest lap for Chaz there. So that free pit stop has helped him pick that up, and he's still got a couple laps to try and go even faster. Back on board with Caleb. What's the gap? It's 4.4 seconds. 4 laps to go. 3 laps to go at the end of this. So he is catching him. Thunderdog obviously doesn't want another spin, because if he has that again, even if he manages to reset pretty quickly, Caleb will probably be through next time should that happen again. So he has to be careful. Caleb got the gap down to 4.1 seconds. It's just too little too late, unfortunately, for him. He'll want to keep the pressure on though. Try and keep Thunderdog going as fast as he can in the hope of making another mistake. GBRO still going well, and certainly safe in P4. Just a few laps to go. Here's Chaz, another attempt at even faster lap, but a bit slower that time, just by only like 3/10 slower that time though. Not by much, so he'll keep plugging away. He's got the fastest lap at the moment. It doesn't look like Caleb's going to be able to beat that one. The gap now 3.4 seconds, but just 2 laps to go. We run on board with our leader. 2 laps to go, 3.4 seconds. So 1 error coming out of the slow corner, almost cost him the race, but he's still got that crucial gap. 1 more error in a similar way. Here's the corner that he did it. It was on the exit. He got on the gas too much while the steering lock was still on, and the car spun round to the right. He was more under control that time, and it looks like he's going to be able to get to the end. There's a lap and a half to go. 3.2 seconds the gap. Caleb unable to set personal best sectors anymore. He's had the best of those soft tyres. He's really put a lot of effort in after his stop. Made lots of ground up quickly. He's not going to quite get there. 1 lap to go. The gap's 3 seconds. So we'll ride on board with Thunderdog, our pole sitter, and it looks like our winner for the Austrian Great British Race-Off Grand Prix to extend his championship lead. Started from pole, gradually pulled away, pretty safe in the pit stops, and despite Caleb's counter strategy, was gradually closing the gap. He stabilised it and has survived a late scare and a late spin, and is now half a lap away from taking the checkered flag. 25 points to go with it and extend the championship lead. So just around turn 6. Here comes 7 and 8 to the right. Two corners to go. And Thunderdog wins! 25 points for him. Caleb crosses the line in P2. Here's Chaz in P3. He's a little bit further back. Just has a couple of corners still to go. And he had a pretty good race too. Almost took back second place from the Caleb after Caleb's pit stop, but just a second or so off at that point. Round the final corner, another podium and trophy for Chaz and GBRO. A little bit further back, a few little issues, off-track excursions, 5-second penalty, but he's still going to bring it home in 4th place as he approaches the final 2 corners. He comes round, final corner now to take the checkered flag. Well done to him. So well done to all the drivers. Another good race, another victory for Thunderdog and second place for the Caleb. So join us again next time for the next race, which will be at Silverstone, I believe. And we'll have fun there. So join us next time on the Great British Race Off. Bye for now.